in Miami. Besides that debate, I think that debate was the best one still. This one was a close second because the moderators actually did some serious question asking and follow up and did not let anybody off the hook. All right, so let's get you guys' opinion. What do you think? How do you score this? What are the takeaways? Let's go with Anoa.
I love Bernie. I do. But they fell down on the team. Bernie fell down on the job. After demanding, pushing that to have this debate, he should have been coming out the door guns blazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it in the chat, but somebody said, he probably was having too many rallies, not enough time for debate prep. I don't know what the answer was. He did better in the second half, but he stumbled and fumbled. I mean, she doesn't have to do well. She just has to. She doesn't have to do well. All she has to do is maintain.
Right.
And he didn't do enough. There are so many things that we've all mentioned that should have came up. Stronger answers. I don't understand at this late stage in the game why the team does not have this stuff together. You should be able to pull this instantaneously. Maybe they need to come holler at you about debate prep next time. I really don't know, but I don't think it hurt him. But he needed this. He needed this, and.
Yeah, we were saying this last night. I think last night someone was asking how does he win, and he needed to absolutely crush her. There's still there's so many questions lingering in the minds of everyone who watched, especially if they watched the entire thing. I think if they picked up just the second half, that they would be like, okay, Bernie came with it. But the first half, I mean, two things your crowning issue. You not only have to be able to answer it, but you also have to be able to answer why your opponent can't touch you on it. And he didn't even point out some of the more obvious things on breaking up the banks, on what money has influenced Hillary Clinton on. He just missed a lot in that first half. If he had not made up for it in the second half, this probably would have been one of the last times we see Bernie Sanders in this presidential election, because it was to me, it was really weak at the beginning, and then. And he made up a lot at the end. I think he came out with haymaker after haymaker after that break. What do you think, Nick?
I think he did very, very, very well at the end. But like you said, when she asked for an example, and he couldn't provide one, that was really devastating. You need to have an example right on the bat, and the example is right there. This is the example. I'm arguing to break up the banks before they wreck our economy again, and you're saying, no, we don't need to break them up.
Yeah. I hate to cut you off, Nick, but you have another bad connection, and I don't know. Maybe we've just been burning up too many Google hours here, and we're still getting a bad signal from you. I think we heard most of it. I want to. I don't know. Let's open up the lines, right? 857-600-0518. Let's see what other people thought. Let me fire up that computer. I was being lazy. I didn't want to fire up the computer, but
just with the gun thing too, that was. Because it has been such a huge issue.
Right.
We all knew that was coming. There's no way they didn't know, well, your answer is good enough. Well, technically, yes, we may all agree that technically he's correct, blah, blah, blah. But that's not a technically correct issue. That is a very emotional issue. That issue has been used to give an emotional response. I am glad that he did kind of push back when she tried to say, well, I was just saying that guns come from other states. No, you weren't. Her and her team went out of her way to make it seem like Vermont somehow was this great provider of guns to New York State.
Right.
When more guns come from within the state itself.
I think one of the biggest things that we saw tonight, I think it became so much more transparent how disingenuous Hillary Clinton is on some of her answers. I'm trying to think of one string of results of answers that felt sincere coming from her. But they asked questions that she had to intentionally ignore or intentionally deflect from and intentionally pivot. And the audience in New York was not having it. I mean, and to be fair, they booed Hillary, they booed Bernie, they cheered for Hillary, they cheered for Bernie, they laughed at Hillary. I mean, but I think that they got at Hillary a lot more because of how much she blatantly and patently just pivoted from every question, refused to answer. What do you think, Nick? Let's check your mic out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little distorted, but let's go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think it may be my connection, not necessarily my. I'm using different mic, and it seems like it might be distorted. What I want to say is, I think what was super important is they didn't really stay much on the economic issues because she's really weak there. They moved from the topics where she was weakest, and they kind of lingered on topics where Bernie was weaker. They lingered on the gun thing for 30 minutes. It was like 20. It was about almost 20 minutes.
Wow.
They lingered on it for a while. They lingered and lingered. They asked like what 3-4 questions and like four rebuttals or so. I was like, man, they are really sitting on this question a lot. And you're right.
I think because they smell blood in the water, right? It's like, yeah, I think they would have done a disservice to themselves as moderators not to seize on that question, because Bernie Sanders left himself wide open. I think if Bernie had come succinctly on that issue and boldly on that issue, as well as sympathetic on that issue, boom, they would have had to move on. But I didn't realize it was that long, 20, 30 minutes.
It was like 20 minutes. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was a lot longer than the economics portion where Hillary is weak. They moved on from those questions very, very quickly. And what I think he should have done here is, number one, he needs to make his responses quicker because he runs out of time every answer. And it makes no sense. He does not have to take as long as he does to get his point across, because sometimes less is better. And he needs to start working with that, because it's a lot easier, you know, to get your message out, especially if it's a simple message. Just give a simple answer. He's done it several times. You need to, you know, make better use of that. Yeah. And then on top of that, he also needs to make sure that he's not kind of rambling or walking into stuff that he doesn't have to. Like I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
If she was out there alone and taking damage for that crime bill, you don't have to mention that you also voted for it. You could let them bring that back, and then you could address it at that time. But when she's already taking hits, you don't have to go out there and hold hands with her and take it together. You can hit her first, and then you can hold hands, and y'all can take the remainder together. But you add your hit in first.
Yeah.
I don't think owning his vote on the crime bill necessarily is a hit or hurts him. He needs to do it. I mean, that's one of the biggest complaints, that everyone is dogging her, dogging Bill, but Bernie voted for it too. And I think it's better for him to get out in front of it versus them hitting him possibly with a question in that respect. But I do agree with you that he doesn't necessarily have to volunteer information. In that respect, I think saying, you know, yes, she's right, I voted for it, and then going on, but he needs to have a stronger point, because the issue isn't that, you know, Bill passed it, because she doesn't let up on him. You know, the issue isn't just that, you know, he voted for it. You know, she likes to tout the good things. Bill likes to tout the good things. He missed two things with that whole exchange. One, in the 90s, you know, they lured them into voting for that bill with the VAWA provision, you know, with certain things, right? He wasn't the one that was advocating, because this is the thing with the Clintons, right? They were advocating the worst parts of the bill. That was what the selling point is. In 94, when she's, you know, giving interviews about the crime bill and hoping that it would pass, she's touting, you know, the increased funding for building more prisons. You know, she's touting the stiffer penalties and stuff. That's what she's talking about. When we get to 96 and everybody's like, oh, well, Super Predator had nothing to do with the bill, da-da-da-da. It did, because Clinton was up for re-election in 1996. So when she's out there talking about, you know, Super Predator and the crime bill, using by then statistics that were already disputed and debunked, you know, she's trying to help her husband get elected as one of his surrogates. She's just like we're holding the Bernie surrogates, you know, responsible today. As a surrogate of the Clinton campaign, Hillary Clinton needs to be held responsible for what she said, what she portrayed, and what she put out there to the American people. And that's how you really, you know, get in front of it. And then with the Bill Clinton thing, go ahead, Ben.
He had that opening, right? He
had
that opening to nail her on that piece of legislation, and then he did exactly what Nick said. He held her by the hand and said, yes, we were in this together. But no, you really weren't, Bernie, because there is a difference. Michelle Alexander points this out. Everybody's trying to point this out, and it seems like none of the national surrogates or Bernie have been willing to point this out, that there's a difference between him supporting this piece of legislation as a result of the Violence Against Women Act as one of the main components as why he supported it, but then more importantly than that, the fact that he came out so vocally against the negative things in it, and he made a vote that he, you know, depending on where you stand, he should not have made that vote. At this point, I think we all agree that 94 crime bill is baggage for everyone. However, if you look at exactly what you said, Anoa, Hillary Clinton advocated the very things that screwed the black community the most.
And remember, I brought it up already.
Go
I
ahead.
brought it up already that remember this bill didn't.
You might as well cut your camera back on because your audio is just as bad.
Oh man.
It's okay.
It's
Now,
okay. We
See,
all
you're
have.
getting inaugurate. This is initiation for real.
I guess so. What I was gonna say is shit. I forgot what I was gonna. Oh, here it is.
No problem. Okay, go for it. You found it.
I got it back. Remember, the crime bill didn't pass on the first time around. You know,
Yes, you
they
did
had
say
to
that.
add those things just to get the bill to be able to be passed, and it did not pass with a majority of Democratic votes. They passed it with a lot of Republican votes. A lot of Republicans signed on to that bill. It wasn't just Democrats. You know,
Right. Yeah.
that is something. That's one of those things that I would say she likes to get things done. This is a piece of bad legislation that she was able to get bipartisan support to get done. I do not want to repeat those type of
Exactly.
things moving forward.